Hello, and thanks for joining us. Coming up on our weekly film show. How a French filmmaker got access and made a documentary about one of the world's most primitive tribes. Considered one of the most isolated people on Earth, the Jarawa are hunter-gatherers who've lived in the forest of an Indian Ocean island for thousands of years. Alexandre Dereims is here to talk about We Are Humanity. Alexandre, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to welcome also our film critic Nesselson. Hello. Now, there are 400 Jarawa people left, and they live in a secret place. They're isolated from the rest of the world. They live as the first humans lived thousands of years ago, and they're protected, or apparently protected by the authorities. How on earth did you get access to them?
So, in fact, indeed, their territory is secured by the Indian army. But in fact, a lot of poachers come every day to hunt Jarawa's game, to starve them. So the territory is not that secured. And on the other hand, there is a road that crosses their territory, and this road is traveled 4 times a day by an army convoy with a lot of tourists, a lot of coaches full of tourists. And their purpose is to make some snapshot of the Jarawa. They paid for a human safari tour. So when the story popped up on the news, on The Guardian in 2012, I just realized that these people were in danger and they were not protected, and they were denied to speak out about their problem. So this is what triggered my mission to go there and meet them and give them a voice.
And how did you approach them?
It was a big story. I cannot give you detail because the people who helped me risk a lot of prison, you know. So I met the right people, like we do all the time to make our investigation as a journalist. And these people went to see the Jarawa and they asked them if they want to meet us. And so the Jarawa knew they were coming to interview them, and it was the time for them to express themselves and to tell the world about their problem, their life, and what they do what they want for the future.
Well, describe the Jarawa and their lives for people who don't know them.
So I went there to give them a voice, and I didn't know what I was going to see, and I just discovered beautiful people living in harmony and happiness, joyful people singing every day, no problem with them, you know, no money, no this kind of things. And what really struck me is this gender equality is a word of equality. Women and men are equal, and they just take care of each other, and this is the way they live. And I think that this is the way we used to live a long, long time ago, but we forget about it. So this film is a kind of reminder of what humanity is really.
Okay, well, let's have a look at a clip from We Are Humanity.
So much harmony and happiness and shared effort to us is almost unnerving. Do you think you have to be raised that way from birth, or can we all learn to be harmonious?
I learned a lot with the Jarawa, and I understood what is happiness, in fact. As Onya, one of the Jarawa women in the film, that she's always happy since she's born, and she said, I'm always busy. So I think that you have to be busy in your life and be proud of what you do. And also trust is a big component of happiness. If you can trust people around you, you're more happy. And there are a lot of things I learned that yes. Life is simple, in fact. You just have to be happy and raise your kids. That's it. This is life.
And there are only, as we said, 400 Jarawa left. Modern influences are creeping in. You talked about the poachers. What's the future for these people? Can they survive living as they do?
I think that India have the means to protect the Jarawa. There are only 400 people, and they just have to close that road, as the Indian Supreme Court has already ruled 5 years ago. So they have to close the road and secure this place, as the Jarawa want. I think they can do that. But now, for the moment, they don't want to do that. They want to expand tourism, and also Andaman Island are a very strategic place for army. So I hope they are going to change their mind. So we launched a petition online that made already 250,000 people who have signed it, and try to pressure the government. But at the end, the decision will be into the government of India.
Okay, well, Alexandre, thank you so much for coming and talking to us about your beautiful film, We Are Humanity. We're going to move on to our films of the week now, and we're starting with a rare film about the events of May 1968. It's half a century on from one of the greatest upheavals in French society since the Revolution. The student and worker revolt brought millions of people onto the streets. Tell us about this film, Panneau ne passera pas.
Well, this is an independently made film about, completely independently, guerrilla, off the charts, about the events of May 68 as experienced by a man who edited film for state-run French television. Everything was shot on film back then. They didn't have videotape. And everything was state-run. So the government had a hand in telling you what you could and couldn't put on television. And so the TV journalists and technicians of French TV went on strike. And in fact, their strike was the longest of all of the professionals and workers who tried to change French society. Come the revolution, my advice, if you're a filmmaker, make sure you have at least one friend who lives someplace where you can get shots from the roof of their building or from their window in the heart of the action. This is semi-fiction. The filmmakers took an actor playing the film editor from the TV station and inserted him into the real events and then recreated some of the others very ingeniously after the fact. The panneau in Panneau ne passera pas, panneau will not get through, refers to a TV show that was on France's second channel, Panorama, and they had put together a show about the student demonstrations and wanted to follow up the following week with more in-depth reporting, and the government said, no, we don't like what you're saying. That's not going to happen. So our guy, Philippe, walks off the job, interacts with fellow workers and students. This film was made in large part as things were happening, and it was almost lost forever. So it's very exciting that we get to see it. The only copy was at the Royal Cinematheque of Belgium in Brussels, and the director happened to notice this film in a garbage bin about to go out, so they rescued it. Here we have authentic footage of the man who was then the leader of the National Student Movement, and he's about to end up on the cutting room floor.
Le gouvernement et le général de Gaulle, qui est un vieillard incapable de comprendre en aucune façon ce qui se passe pour le moment, ne peuvent être considérés comme le fond.
Voilà, si c'est injure contre De Gaulle qu'ils veulent que j'enlève.
Le gouvernement et le général de Gaulle, qui est un...
Alexandre, your documentary about the Jarawa is a world away from a documentary like that about strikes, about demonstrations in France. The people you spent time with are so different. After spending years working on this film, did it make you look at France differently?
The world, I look at the world differently. In fact, they gave me hope. After working on the war fields and very strong documentaries about, North Korean refugees or African migrants, I was kind of depressed about the world. But meeting them just gave me hope. Yeah.
And what sort of documentary, after doing one like that, do you see yourself making next?
I want to make a documentary in Japan. This is the story of a former police officer who saved lives. He prevented people from jumping off a cliff in Japan, because people go there to kill themselves. So he stopped them at the very, very moment where they are going to kill themselves. And after he find them a job, help them to pay the debt. And, he just put them on the track of life. Only saving one life a week. So will be my title, A Life a Week.
That's incredible. That's a really interesting story. We'll have to come back and talk to us about it when you've made it. So, Lisa, now we're going to talk about a small Italian drama about how a venal corporation endeavours to control way too many aspects of the lives of modern factory workers. Tell us about 7 Minutes.
Well, I am a sucker for courtroom dramas where a jury deliberates, and this follows that model. There are shades here of 12 Angry Men, which means lots of talk and debate and persuasion in search of consensus, and it is absolutely riveting stuff. A factory, staffed mostly by women, has been sold to a new owner. So 11 members of the Workers' Council are joshing and talking as they're waiting for an offer to come about the new working conditions, and they're worried the factory will be completely closed. Longtime worker Bianca brings back the take it or leave it deal. Sounds good, at least at first. The new owners won't close the factory or fire everybody if every worker agrees to give up 7 minutes each and every day from their break time. So, big deal, 7 minutes, right? But the 7 minutes of the title might just be the first concession. If hundreds of workers give up 7 minutes a day, that works out to a lot of free labor over weeks, months, years. Should they accept? Would you give up 7 minutes a day to keep your job? The way the film is constructed encourages us to identify with the workers, even if we've never been anywhere near an assembly line.
Okay, well, Lisa, thank you very much. That was 7 minutes. Thank you also to Alexandre for coming in to talk about your wonderful film, We Are Humanity.
Thank you very much.
Well, just before we go, coming up this weekend on France 24 is our documentary, Hollywood Women Strike Back. Since the Harvey Weinstein scandal broke last October, we've been hearing about a women's revolution taking place, not just relating to sexual harassment, but pay gaps, a lack of interesting female roles, and few chances for women behind the camera. So we went to speak to the people involved, including Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, and others who are calling time's up on the power imbalance. And we're going to leave you with that. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter and Facebook. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
There's a 21% pay difference between men and women.
Women of the world want to see themselves on film.
It was all talk before, but there's actual accountability now.
I think it is starting to think about changing.
Weinstein's a monster. He's a horrible man.
Something has cracked wide open.